again, and welcome to your video coaching session. Now, in this session, we're going to focus on the difference between baselines and interim plans. We're going to focus on creating, saving, changing, and clearing. So let's get started. Baselines and interim plans, understanding, saving, changing, and clearing them. So, what is the difference between an interim plan and a baseline plan? Well, basically, interim plans only store a set of tasks, start and finish dates. And baselines store a lot more data. Besides start and finish dates, baselines store duration, work, cost, resources, assignments, and more. The project file size is actually impacted as well. So when you're saving a baseline, then the file size of your project file will be increased significantly. The more baselines that you save, the larger your project file, and ultimately the slower a project's calculation of changes in the schedule. When do you set a baseline? This is often a question people ask, and here's one way to approach it. On a short project, at the end of the planning phase, you can set your baseline. On a long project, you may have several baselines in the project life cycle. So let's say at the end of the life cycle of each life cycle phase or specific major milestones, then you may want to rebaseline your schedule. Next, we're going to look at how to save interim plans. Let's go to Microsoft Project. Okay, so here's a sample project schedule, and we've gone through the initiation and planning phase, so now we're ready to baseline or save an interim schedule. So how you save an interim plan is you go to the menu item Tools, and you select Tracking, and you select Set Baseline. And the Set Baseline dialog box pops up, and you can see that there's a radio button here that says Set Interim Plan. So you would select that radio button in order to set your interim plan. Next, you would then select the drop downs here. There's a Copy drop down and an Into drop down. And basically, if you selected tasks prior to coming into this dialog box, then these steps, you would then select the selected task radio button. But in our case, we didn't select any task. We're actually working with the whole schedule. So here you can select where you want to copy it into. If it's the first start and finish or the second or third, etc., you can do that. You can change where you're copying it into. In our case, this is the first time we're doing this, so we're going to copy the regular start and finish into start 1 and finish 1. And then we click on OK. So that's how you save an interim plan. Now let's say you need to change the baseline or interim schedule for some reason. Let's say you want to change it for some tasks, but not all tasks. For example, you started your project, but for some reason it was put on hold. And you can keep the baseline for the task you completed up to the point it was placed on hold, and change the dates for the future tasks, and then reset the baseline only for tasks that have not been completed. And by doing this, you'll be able to retain the ability to accurately assess the entire project and how well you estimated. So to do this, to add tasks into your baseline or interim plan, you select the task before you open up Set Baseline. So let's just go ahead and add a task in our schedule. We're going to call this additional task. Okay, So you can imagine that when you have a schedule, you're going to have lots of different tasks. And I'm just going to change the font color here so that it stands out for what we're doing right now. I'll make it maroon and I'll make it bold. Okay, just so it stands out. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to select the task, and then we'll go to Tools, Tracking, Set Baseline. We're going to choose Set Interim Plan and Selected Tasks. Now notice that the roll-up baseline is not available because we're working with Set Interim Plan, but if we were updating a baseline with selected tasks, then you would have these options available. But we're going to update our interim plan with the selected tasks. However, before we do that, let me just kind of explain what roll up to baseline means. Here you have two options: to all summary tasks or from subtasks to selected summary tasks. And basically here, depending on which options you select, it will determine how the baseline information is rolled up. And one other detail about this button, once you have set up your how you want to save your baselines, you can actually set that as default if you want project to roll up baselines or interim plans for selected tasks in the same way every time. Then you can click on Set as Default and it'll do what you have selected. So in our case, again, we're going back to setting an interim plan. We're going to use a selected tasks and click on OK. Now right now I have the start and finish column showing, but as you saw on the tracking window, we were copying into start one and finish one. So if I wanted to see what those look like, I can right click and insert start one and finish one. And let me expand the column width. Okay, and just so you see, if I went ahead and inserted another row here and typed in new task, you can see that it's not in our interim schedule yet. So I would have to go in and add it. So now let's look at clearing the baseline or interim plan. Normally you keep your baseline and interim plan data, but if you have a valid reason to clear them, you would do the following. So suppose you complete your planning phase, you set your baseline, and then you receive word that your project is on hold for 6 months. Since the project execution has not begun, then in 6 months you'll want to set a new baseline so that you have a good information, to compare your estimates with your actuals. So basically what you would do to clear your baseline is you would go to the Tools menu option, go to Tracking, and then there's a menu item here that says Clear Baseline. And notice that you can clear baseline plan or clear interim plan, and you can clear it for the entire project or for selected tasks. Okay. So in this example, let's just clear the interim plan for the entire project so you can see what happens. I click on OK, and notice all of my start one and finish one data is gone. Okay. Again, I could have also selected specific tasks and cleared the interim plan for those specific tasks. Here, let me show you. I'll hit undo, and let's say I select everything from here down. Let's say we've done our planning, and then before we get to execute, we receive word that our project's on hold. So I go to Clear Interim Plan for selected tasks and click on OK. And it cleared out the interim plan data, the start and finish dates for these selected tasks. And again, this works the same way for the baseline. I just happen to be working right now in interim plan. So there you have it. Now, take a look at your homework below, and I'll see you in our next lesson.